Okay, so here is a lesson for section 8.3, the volume of prisms and pyramids. I've divided section 8.3 into two sections, one section on the volume, one section on the surface area of prisms and pyramids. So here's the section for the volume of prisms and pyramids. So make sure you go to jensenmath.ca, you print off this lesson so you can go through it with me and fill out the answers as we go along. I'm just going to quickly go through the introduction. What I really want to do, I really want to show you how to actually find the volume of prisms and pyramids. So I'll put up the answers to this introduction and just very briefly talk about them with you. So here's the answer. So basically all I'm going to go through in the introduction is talk to you about how the volume and the surface area, the two important measurements when dealing with three-dimensional objects. I talk about the volume is actually how much space a three-dimensional object occupies. And we're generally there's three main units of measurements we use when dealing with volume, either meters cubed, centimeters cubed, or millimeters cubed. We're always in units cubed because we're talking about a three-dimensional measurement here. We're dealing with three-dimensional objects and how much three-dimensional space they occupy, so we're going to be working with units cubed, either meters cubed, centimeters cubed, or millimeters cubed. Another important unit when working with volume is the liter. And what the liter is, it's how we generally measure the volume of a liquid. So if we're working with how much liquid can a container hold, we'll be talking about measure it in liters. Okay, and what a liter actually is, it's defined as the volume of a cube with sides of length 10 centimeters. So if a cube has a length of 10, a width of 10, and a height of 10, that represents 1 liter. And 1 liter is equal to 1,000 centimeters cubed. I also talk capacity is the greatest volume a container can hold. And we also have to know how to go from centimeters cubed to liters cubed. So to go from centimeters cubed to liters, we must divide by 1,000. And to go from liters to centimeters cubed, we must multiply by 1,000. Because we know in every liter, there is 1,000 centimeters cubed. So to go from liters to centimeters cubed, you have to multiply by 1,000 because there's 1,000 centimeters cubed in every liter. Okay? And vice versa, if you want to go from centimeters cubed to liters, you must divide by 1,000. Okay, let's actually do some examples now. So if I want to find the volume of a prism, I first have to know, okay, what is a prism? So a prism is a three-dimensional object with two parallel congruent polygonal bases. So a prism is named by the shape of its base. So for example, two examples, I could have a rectangular prism or a triangular prism. So a rectangular prism is a prism that has bases that are rectangles, and a triangular prism is a prism that has bases that are triangles. How you find the volume of any prism, all you have to do is find the area of the base. So for a rectangular prism, find the area of the rectangular base, or for a triangular prism, find the area of the triangular base, and then multiply that area by the height of the prism. Okay? So let's look at how we would do this for a rectangular prism. So I've got a cereal box on the right here. Here's my cereal box. If I want to find the volume of that box, okay, first, what type of shape is this? What shape is the base here? There's a base at the top and at the bottom, and they're rectangle. So this is a rectangular prism. So I'm finding the volume of a rectangular prism. First, let's determine the volume of the package in the photograph in cubic centimeters. So my units are centimeters. I've got 3 units. They're going to be multiplied together. So I'll have centimeters times centimeters times centimeters, which gives me centimeters cubed. That's why I'm measuring in cubic centimeters. So I know if I want to find the volume of any prism, what I have to do, volume equals, I have to find the area of the base, and multiply that by the height of the prism. So how do I find, I know the base is a rectangle. How do I find the area of a rectangle? Well, you do that by doing length times width. The area of a rectangle is length times width. And then I need to then multiply that by the height of the prism. So times height. So let's figure out which of these dimensions is the length and the width, and which is the height of the prism. Well, I've got my dimension here, which is 12 centimeters. That tells me this right here. My 5 centimeters tells me this right here. And my 15 centimeters, that will tell me the whole height of this prism right there. So the distance between the bases is the height of the prism. So I've got my length and my width of the base. That'll tell me the area of my base multiplying the length and the width together. So 12 times 5. And then I need to multiply that area by the height of the prism, which is 15. So I get 12 times 5, which will give me 60. And then I have to multiply 60 by 15, and I get 900, and I'm in centimeters cubed. Remember, volume is always in units cubed, and we're dealing with centimeters here, so centimeters cubed. Okay? And this formula here, length times width times height, that will give you, that's the general formula you can use for all rectangular prisms, because the base of all rectangles is always, the base of a rectangular prism is always a rectangle. Find the area of a rectangle is always length times width, and then you must multiply that by the height of the prism, because it's always area base times the height. So to find the volume of any rectangular prism, it's always length times width times height. So that's why I did 12 times 5 times 15, and that gave me the volume of 900 centimeters cubed. So that was part A. Part B says express the capacity in liters. So part B, express the capacity in liters. Well, okay, so I have 900 centimeters cubed. What I need to do, I need to get that into liters. Hopefully you remember what I said before. For every 1 liter, there's 1,000 centimeters cubed. So if I have 900 centimeters cubed, to get that into liters, I must divide by 1,000. If you can't remember that, let's think about, okay, so 900 centimeters cubed in, I want to get that into liters. In 1 liter, there is 1,000 centimeters cubed. So multiplied by that ratio, my centimeters cubed will cancel. Okay, and I'll have 900 times 1, which is 900 divided by 1,000, which will give me 0.9 liters. Okay, liters is the unit I'm left with because the centimeters cubed canceled out. So essentially what I did here, to get from centimeters cubed to liters, I divided by 1,000 and I get 0.9 liters. Okay, let's now find the volume of a triangular prism. So I know to find, so I have a triangular prism here, so I know my base is a triangle. And I know to find the area, to find the volume of any prism, you have to do area of the base times the height of the prism. So that's what I have to do. And my base is a triangle in this case. I know how to find the area of a triangle. Remember, area of a triangle equals base times height divided by 2. In this case, I'm not going to use the letter h to represent the height of the base though, because I need to reserve the letter h to stand for the height of the entire prism. Okay. Therefore, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the letter b to stand for the base of the triangular base. Okay. So that's going to be the same. But to represent the height of the triangle, so the height of just the triangle, I'm going to use the letter L. L stands for the height of the triangular base, because I need to save the letter h to stand for the height of the prism, of the overall height of the prism. Okay, so that's where the formula, the volume will equal half times b times L times h, because the area of the base, so the base is a triangle, so I need to do half times base times height, half times base, and remember the height of the triangular base, we're using the letter L. So half times b times L, that's the area of the base. And then the height of the triangular prism, we're using the letter h for. So times h. If we combine this all together, that's where we get half times b times L times h. We just have to be able to then label our diagram properly. Okay? So I need to figure, okay, where it's a triangular prism, so where's the triangular base? Well, the triangular base is right here. So I know the height of the prism is the distance between the bases. So there's a base here and a base at the other end. What's the distance between those bases? That will be the height of my prism. That's this right here, the 2.8. So I will label that h because I know h represents the height of my prism. Now I know the b represents the base length of my triangular base. That's this here. And I'm using L to represent the height of my triangular base. That is this right here. That gives me this height right here. So I'm going to use the letter L to represent that. Now all I need to do is plug that into my formula of volume equals, a half. You can write it as a half times B times L times H, or you could write it as B times L times H divided by 2. Either way is fine. Multiplying by half, dividing by 2 is the same thing. So if I have this, just plug in what we know. The length of the triangular base, the base length of our triangular base is 2.0. So 2. L, I know L represents the height of my triangular base. So make sure you remember that L represents the height of your triangular base. So that's 2.4. And then H represents the height of the prism. Okay, not the height of the triangular base, the height of the prism. So H represents the height of my prism. That's this right here, and that's 2.8. Then this must all then be divided by 2. And we will then evaluate that. Okay, so we want to do 2 times 2.4, which gives me 4.8. Multiply that by 2.8, going to be 13.44, and I must divide that by 2, and I get 6.72. And don't forget, when you're finding the volume of an object, you're always in units cubed, because we're talking about how much three-dimensional space does an object occupy. It's 6.72, and we're in meters, so meters cubed. Okay, so determine the volume of the tent. We've determined the volume of this tent, which is the shape of a triangular prism. So the tent has a volume of 6.72 meters cubed. Okay, so now we've learned how to find the volume of a prism. Okay, you always just do the area of the base times the height. Okay, how do we find the volume of a pyramid? To find the volume of a pyramid, all you have to do is the same thing, area of base times the height, but you then must multiply that by 1/3 or divide it by 3. So 1/3 area of base times height will find you the volume of a pyramid. What is a pyramid? Here's the definition of a pyramid. A pyramid is a polyhedron whose base is a polygon, and other faces are triangles that meet at a common vertex. So if we look at this example here, I've got a base that looks like a square, a rectangle, possibly a square, and what happens is I then have triangles all coming off of that base that meet at a common vertex at the top here. So let's do an example. Let's find the volume of a pyramid. Turn the volume of a square-based pyramid-shaped container to the nearest cubic centimeter. So remember, volume is 1/3 area of the base times the height. Okay. So what I have to do, if I want to find the volume of this square-based pyramid. Well, it tells me that, first of all, it tells me that it has a square base. So I know all of the side lengths of the base here. It's 8 by 8 by 8 by 8. If I want to find the area of that, that's nice and easy. Area is length times width, so 8 times 8, which is 64. That's great. But what's the height of the pyramid? I need to find the height from the middle of the base all the way to the top of the vertex. It doesn't give me that length. But what I could do, I could create a right triangle inside this pyramid. Hopefully you can see what I've created here. I'm not sure why it's made it dark here. Okay, there we go. So I've created this right triangle. I'll draw this with this one coming off of here as well. I don't want it to be dark. There we go. Okay, so I've created that right triangle inside of there. I know the side along here. Oops, need my pencil back. I know the side along here is 10 centimeters long. I know the side on the bottom here is half of 8 centimeters, so that's 4. I need to figure out the height. I need to figure out the height of that pyramid. But what I have is a right triangle. I know to figure out a missing side of a right triangle, you can use Pythagorean theorem. And that's what I have written below. First, determine the height of the pyramid using Pythagorean theorem. So I put a note here, the height of the pyramid is the perpendicular distance from the vertex to the base. So that means go from the middle of the base right up to the vertex. So it didn't give us that piece of information, so I created a right triangle inside. You'll be able to see, I'll make this bigger so you can see it as well. So if you look here, a right triangle has been created inside of that pyramid. to help us figure out the height. And we've got two of the dimensions of the right triangle. We just need to find the missing third dimension. So what we do is we use Pythagorean theorem to find that missing third dimension. So let's do that. So I've got my right triangle. I'm just going to make another drawing of it off to the side here. I've got my right triangle. I've got my right angle. And I've got two of the three pieces of information. I know that this side is 10 centimeters. I know that the bottom side is 4 centimeters. I'm looking to find the height. So remember the legs we label with A and B. And our hypotenuse, the side across from the right angle, we would label with side C. And I know that A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Pythagorean theorem tells me that. So what I have to do, plug in the information I know. I know A is 4. I don't know B, and I know C squared. I know C is 10, so 10 squared. Now, let's evaluate what we know. I know what 4 squared is. That's 16. And I know 10 squared is 100. So now I want to isolate the B. I want to get B by itself so I can figure out what the length of side B is. That's what I'm looking for. So I'm going to move the 16 to the other side. 100 minus 16. So if I take away 16 from 100, I get 84. So B squared, sorry, I forgot the square there. B squared is 84. To figure out B, I must isolate the B, move the square to the other side, do the opposite of squaring, which is square rooting. So B equals the square root of 84. And if I find the square root of 84, type that in, square root of 84, that gives me 9.2 if I round to the nearest tenth. 9.2 centimeters. Okay, so I now have the height of my pyramid. So if I look back at my diagram here, I now have this missing side. It's 9.2. 9.2 centimeters. So I now have the height of the pyramid. And in order to find the area of the pyramid, I have to know the area of the base multiplied by the height. So I now have the height. I can find the area of the base. That's all I need to find the volume of the pyramid. So now that you have the height of the pyramid, you can find the volume. Volume equals 1/3 area of base times the height of the pyramid. Okay, so how do I find the area of the base? Well, it's a square. So I know the base is 8 by 8. So I know the area of the square is the length times width, which is 8 times 8. So area of base is 8 times 8. And I just solved for the height of the prism, or the pyramid, sorry. The height of the pyramid is 9.2. So just multiply this out. 1/3 times 8 times 8 times 9.2. Or do the 8 times 8 times 9.2. 8 times 8 times 9.2. And then divide that answer by 3. That's what multiplying by a third does. And I get 196.3 if you round to the nearest tenth. 196.3. And we're in centimeters cubed. Whenever you're finding volume, we're in units cubed. So the volume of this pyramid is 196.3 centimeters cubed. So what I want you to do now, I want you just to try and answer, I think there's 3 or 4 questions here. So let me just, so hopefully you have this lesson printed out, you can go through these. Try these 4 questions. Find the volume of a cube with a side length of 5 centimeters. Okay. So find the volume of that cube. We know when you have a cube, that means we have a square-based rectangular prism is what we have. Remember, the volume of a prism is area base times height. So what you do, area base is a square, okay, so that it's length times width, or just length squared, and then times the height of the prism. So length times width times height. But those will all be the same values. The length, the width, and the height will all be the same value because its base is a square. All 3 dimensions will be the same. So what you could just do, or just do length cubed. Okay, so 5 cubed will get your answer there. Number 2, we have a triangular base prism. So what you want to do to find the volume of that type of prism, remember, area of the base. So It's a triangular base, so half times base times height. And remember, we use the letter L to represent the height of the triangular base because we use the letter H. So here's our B and our L. We use the letter H to represent the height of the prism. And then, so area of the base times the height, so half times B times L will give you the area of the triangular base, and then multiply that by the H, the height of the prism. So that's the area of the base times height. So try that for that one. And then we have a pyramid here. We have a square-based pyramid. Remember to find the volume of a pyramid. It's 1/3 area of base times height. So try that one as well. Area base, it's a square base, so just length times width will give you the area of the base, which is 4 times 4. So you can plug that in for area of base. 4 times 4. And then you need to multiply that by the height of the pyramid. It actually gives you the height of the pyramid this time. It gives you the length from the middle of the base to the vertex. That'll give you the height of the pyramid, so it gives you that. It's 6. Okay? So I might as well just finish this one off with you now. So 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 6 will give you 96. And you have to divide that by 3, and you get 32. So 32 centimeters cubed for that one. So hopefully you've tried. Okay, go through and try the first two. I did the third one with you. Try the first two. Once you've done the first two, you should have the answers of. So I'm about to reveal them. So pause it now if you want to finish them. Let me just scroll down and find the answers here. You should have. For A, you should have 125 centimeters cubed, or for number 1, 125, because we know to find the volume of a cube, you have to do length times width times height, but because they're all the same, it's really just length times length times length, which is length cubed, so that means 5 cubed, that means 5 times 5 times 5, which is 125, and we're in centimeters, so centimeters cubed. For number 2, you should have got 1,613.6 units cubed. It didn't give us the units for that one. Whoops. So let me fill that one out. A half times the base of the triangular base is 10.5. The height of the triangular base, the L, is 13.6. And the height of the prism is 22.6. If we evaluate that whole thing, 10.5 times 13.6 times 22.6, and then divide that answer by 2, we get 1,613.6. Doesn't tell us the units, so we'll actually just write units cubed. Good, and that's what we were supposed to have there. 3, I did number 3 with you. We got 32 centimeters cubed. Okay, number 4. Number 4, we didn't do a cylinder yet. Basically what a cylinder is, it's a prism with a circular base. And remember, the volume of any prism is equal to area of base times the height of the prism. So if it's a circular base, how do we find the area of a circle? Area of a circle, so volume equals area of base. If the base is a circle, remember the area of a circle is pi r squared. So pi r squared, multiply that by the height of the prism, and that'll give you the area. That's where we get the formula pi r squared h. That's the area of the base times the height of the prism. So let's look at what it gives us. It gives us the diameter of the base, and remember, radius equals half of the diameter, so half of 12 equals 6. So I have the radius is 6 meters. I need that in my formula for the volume of a cylinder or a circular based prism. And it also gives me the height of the prism. It gives me my h. Okay, so let's plug in what we know. It's going to be pi times r squared, so times 6 squared, times the height of the prism, which is 7. So pi times 36 times 7. Pi times 36 times 7 give me 791.7 if I round it to the nearest tenth. 791.7 meters cubed. Volume is always meters cubed. And let's make sure that's what we're supposed to get. Yep, 791.7 meters cubed. So just a quick conclusion. To find the volume of a prism. So remember, a prism is when you have a polygon as a base, okay? And we named the prism based on the shape of the base, okay? So for a triangular prism, it has a triangle as a base at either end. To find the volume of any prism, all you have to do is find the area of the base and multiply that by the height of the prism. To find the volume of a pyramid, so you have a shape, a polygon as a base, okay, and then what happens is you have triangles on each of the sides of the base that meet at a vertex above. So to find the volume of any pyramid, you just do 1/3 times the area of the base times the height of the pyramid. Okay, so for a prism, you just find the area of the base, multiply that by the height, and for a pyramid, you just find 1/3 the area of the base times a height. So just make sure you know what you're working with. Am I working with a prism, which is a three-dimensional object with two parallel congruent polygonal bases, or am I working with a pyramid, which I'll put up the definition here as well. I'm working with a pyramid, which has a polyhedron, which is a polyhedron whose base is a polygon, and other faces are triangles that meet at a common vertex. So if you have a prism, you're going to do area base times height. If you have a pyramid, you're going to do 1/3 times the area of the base times the height to find the volume of each of those. Okay, so that's it. Make sure you download the worksheet, try it out, practice what we've learned. Remember, volume of prism, area base times height, volume of pyramid, 1/3 times the area of the base times the height. So make sure you just pay attention to what your base is, know how to find the area of that base, then multiply by the height of the prism, or multiply by 1/3 the height if you're working with a pyramid. Okay, so that's it. Let me know if you have any questions.